Welcome back to Highwheel Woodworks. Tim Eggers here. One of the things I want to show you today is how to do a dado stack in your table saw. Where that comes into play and what you would use it for most commonly is you're building bookshelves and you want that shelf to sit into that dado, which is basically a three-sided groove in your board. Or let's say you're building some kitchen cabinets and you want your face frame to be dadoed so that your side pieces and your base or your bottom of it can go into that. So what we've got to do is first unplug your saw. Always unplug your saw when you've done that. So we've already done that. I'm going to take my blade, my regular blade out. So you notice I've taken my guard off because you can't hardly run a guard with a dado stack in. I'm reaching down here and I'm taking my blade out of the machine. Real nice 10-inch Tenryu Gold Series blade that really cuts. I really like it. I'm going to pop that out of here. Try not to drop your nut down into the saw. It's always a little bit of a pain to try to retrieve that. I'm going to set my blade aside. Now, I want to do a 3-inch or a 3/4 inch dado stack. So I'm going to take my blade here, and they are directional. It's got to be in the right direction. So it'll say on here usually that this side has to be out. First thing I'm going to do is stack that in there onto my spindle, and that's 1/8 of an inch in thickness. If I'm going to go to 3/4, I'm going to add another 1/8 inch chipper here. Cutters and chippers, what they're called. Slide that in there. And you'll notice that the carbide tips on our blades here, they have to be staggered. They can't be right beside each other because the actual blade itself is thinner than the carbide that goes on it. So you don't want to have those conflicting with each other. So you'll offset them a little bit. I'll grab my next one here and I'll go 90 degrees from the first one. There, I've got 3/8. Here's another 1/8 inch piece coming into the equation. We'll set that one in there. Split the difference again halfway so they're staggered in there. And that gives us 1/2. Make sure your chippers are all going in the right direction so they're coming at you when they're spinning around in there. That gives us 5/8. Now we've got our last cutter blade on the outside. We'll set that in there. Now when we get this cut made, we should have a full 3/4 of an inch of dado there. There are spacers that you're going to find that come in the range of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever. So if you've got to make your piece just a touch wider than your cutters, you actually can. Sometimes if you're using plywood, it doesn't come exactly at 3/4 of an inch. Sometimes it can be a little thicker than that. Sometimes it might be a little thinner. So you might have to compensate for those by spacing your cutters out a little bit. And of course, today the nut going on there doesn't want to cooperate near as well as we'd like it to. And it's important to have this get really nice and tight because you want those blades not to be able to move in your stack. So we're going to get those real tight on here. Come on, tighten up. If I went going the right way, that'd make it a whole lot tighter, a whole lot quicker. And we'll get where we need to be. There we go. Now I've got that nice and snug on there. What I like to do is kind of grab my blade and my forearm and just pinch that up there nice and tight without moving that blade so I don't cut my fingers. We'll get our stack back out of the way. We've got a throat plate that is specific to the dado stack here, so it's got a little extra room in it. We'll slide that in place. Now what I like to always do is I like to take my blade, lower it down below my deck. I'll put my fence back over it. I'll go back here, plug in my table saw so I've got power, and then I like to turn it on while it's below the deck and it's covered up with my fence. That way, if the blades move or anything shifts and it knocks any of the carbide teeth off, it's going to fly into this versus somewhere else in the shop. I'm going to turn this on real quick and turn it back off, and everything is running just like it should. Let's take one of these and make a little dado cut so you can see what it's actually going to look like. And once we get that moved up, we're always adjusting it in the up position to get to our depth of cut. I've got that there. I'm going to set that there. I'm going to grab one of my push sticks here. I like to use this one on for dado stuff. It's got a little bit of a hook here on the end that'll hook over that piece, and it can run right over that. That might be a little, that's enough of a cut. So we're going to go with cutting that dado. And obviously we would have our dust extractor on and run while we're doing this, but we're going to run this through so you can see what a dado looks like. And again, my position is my right foot is basically underneath the T-slot. I am to the left of my fence. I want my energy going toward the fence and toward the deck so it'll stay nice and tight to the fence. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and push my piece off onto my outfeed table. I'm going to wait till that blade comes to a complete stop before I reach out and touch anything. I've got my 3/4 inch dado there. I've got my shelf that'll fit right down in there nice and snug. And pretty soon, I've got a perfect shelf for my bookshelf, or I've got the sides and the bottom for my cabinets to go in place. That's what a dado is about, a 3/4 inch dado. If I wanted to do, let's say I'm going to do a rabbet instead, which is the back side of a bookshelf. I want to put the back on. I want to have a slot for that. I simply move my fence over to get to the dimension of the rabbet that I want. Let's go ahead and run that through and show you what a rabbet looks like. Again, I'm holding it with my push pad here. I'm coming off to the side. Again, I'm going to wait till that blade comes to a complete stop. I've got enough patience. I've got enough time to wait that out. And that's one of the critical things I think in a workshop or anywhere you've got power tools is you have to be patient. If you can't be patient in the shop, you're going to become the patient in the shop. Think about that for a second. Right here, we have a nice rabbet in the back of our board. So if we were going to put something in the back of it, like the back piece of our bookshelf, that's what it's going to look like. We've got a rabbet and a dado, all cut with a dado stack. Easiest way to do those operations, right there with a dado stack, and set it up so that your material fits perfectly into your dado, and away you go. That's a dado stack.